I'm backing up my truck, I'm gonna hook it up, loading up my boat with all my gear. I've been working hard all week, trying to make ends meet, spending time wishing I was fishing. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing. Gather up your gear and come along. Well, Terry Wickstrom wants to take you fishing.
This is Terry Wickstrom. Join Karen Cullum, Greg Claudio, and me as we take you to some of our favorite fishing spots from Colorado to Minnesota, the Arctic Circle to Central America and beyond, as we revisit episodes of Mountain States Fishing and Angling Adventures Television on the best of fishing with Terry Wickstrom.
Hey, we got what I think is going to be a really interesting show for you today. You all know I really love walleye fishing. We try to bring you as much of it as we can. And we fish a lot of the local lakes in the west here. Living in Colorado, we have very few lakes that have a self-sustaining walleye population. Most of our walleye fishing in Colorado has to be supplemented with stocking or almost sustained with stocking. So we're going to show you some fishing today in just a minute, and then we're going to take you out. We're actually going to show you the spawning operation and what it takes to gather the eggs, gather the milk, and the process they go through. And this is so important to Colorado. You know, in Colorado we have Horsetooth and Carter have fairly decent self-sustaining populations of walleyes, and I believe Rifle Gap over on the west slope. But most of the rest of the walleye fishing in Colorado, the big walleye fisheries, Pueblo, Cherry Creek, and Chatfield, where we're going to take you, probably would have very few walleyes if it wasn't for stocking. And they're going to try to gather millions of eggs, I think over 100 million eggs a year. They also trade them out. So what I'd like to do, we're going to get you out on the lake, and first we're going to do a little fishing. We're going to go back to a show we did a little while ago with Troy Coburn in the spring, throwing some crankbaits and jigs. We're going to catch a few walleyes at Chatfield. Then we'll come back, tell you a little bit more about the spawn, and take you right out there and show you some of the incredible fish they get in their nests when they do the spawning.
Excellent.
There we go.
That's a walleye.
Yeah. Could tell by the pull. At first I thought it was a weed because it had that duh.
Yeah.
Then it kicks a little bit. Not a big walleye, but just a nice starter fish for me for a game fish.
There you go. See, he's hooked on the outside of the face too.
They're swiping at him.
They're not eating.
They're not eating. They're swiping at him. Yeah, he's hooked. They're more hitting out of aggression than eating. They're swiping at it.
Right.
And getting caught outside the mouth. But, you know, just a nice healthy Chatfield walleye, nice year class, nice healthy. There's going to be a lot of walleyes in this lake for a long time. This is what a great lake to fish, because that's the nice thing about fishing grubs too.
Sure, you can catch anything on it.
Anything that swims. Well, I'm just fishing a little 3-inch curly tail grub, and just crawling along the bottom. You're liable to catch a walleye. I caught a sucker. We're sure we're going to catch some smallmouth, and it's just a great way to fish and have a good time. And you might even catch a big trout. You hooked up?
Yep.
All right.
Another walleye.
Another walleye. All right, good job. About the same size. Mine was bigger, I think. Oh, mine was way bigger than that. Here, let me hold your rod. No, actually, they're about cookie. That's, well, you know, it's about cookie cutter size. But there's they heavily stock this lake, and it's just a tremendous fishery for a fishery that exists in a metropolitan area.
Toothy critters.
Yeah, you bass guys don't like that. I shouldn't say that you, because that's how I started my career. You know, I give Troy so much guff about bass fishing. But, you know, honest to God, Troy, bass is still my favorite fish. But sure. I hate to tell you that. But I'll tell you what, we really haven't been out that long. I've given him a hard time. It's early yet, but we've only been fishing for maybe a half an hour. We've got 3-4 fish already. We're having a good time. And we just started out with crankbaits, and the fish just weren't active enough to chase it. And so we're going to the grub, a little more subtle presentation, but we're also out here on a Sunday. And it could be that, you know, Dave, our camera boat driver, said that there was just, you know, 100 boats here Saturday. Yeah, these fish may have got beat up, and that crankbait may be too aggressive a presentation.
Sure.
Maybe not that the fish aren't so aggressive, it's just that maybe they've seen so many lures that we need a more subtle presentation to kind of fool them. And there's nothing more natural than that little natural colored grub on a plain lead head jig. It's just, it could be almost anything. I'll show you that, get it out of here and give the folks a look at it. I've got a unpainted jig head a smoked sparkle grub. And what this does, it could be a minnow, it could be a crawfish, it could be just about anything, but there's no negative signals on this. If I had a chartreuse grub or the big crankbait, there's some unnatural signals. Put this in the water, it just looks natural, and that's why you can catch almost anything that swims.
Pulled my skirt down.
Yeah, and he's an unpainted jig with kind of a pumpkin or
It's called dark pumpkin is the exact color.
colored grub.
Yeah.
So natural colors are browns and grays.
Felt like a good thump too.
I got to get going before you get ahead of me again.
Again, I think we're tied, aren't we?
That's what I said before you get because you got the first fish, remember?
Yeah. But does your soccer count?
Well, of course, until I get on something more. And since it's my show, I might have caught the first fish by the time it hits television. Oh, the camera's running.
So there's a ledge. That big point that we went over is right there, and we're actually
let's describe a little bit.
off in the channel.
Troy, seriously, let's describe the kind of what we're looking for here. We're in the back end of Chatfield.
Right.
We're fishing this gravel pits back in here. Now this is a lake that you got to spend some time to get to know, but what we're doing is we're fishing, there's gravel pits. Now years ago, and I don't fish Chatfield a lot anymore, I used to catch a lot of walleyes on that big road bed in the middle of the lake where that bridge is.
Right.
The smallmouth relating to that at all?
They do, but not as much as the walleye. However, when you do get on the smallmouth out there, they're usually big fish.
And I think the important thing to realize here is that you've got a quality fishery in a metropolitan area. And wherever you live, like I said before, there's a chance you have a lake like this near you. Chatfield Reservoir just happens to be a real jewel of a fishery. It took years of experimentation with what they stocked in here and to develop the forage. When the shad finally took off is when we started seeing the big fish really start to appear.
Right.
And once they established a good forage base here, it's just turned into a tremendous fishery. That's a double-edged sword because that forage base keeps these fish fed, makes them a little bit more difficult to catch, but it grows you those big fish. And you know, when you can drive just a few miles from your house, get some action, and at any time be into just a quality trophy fish, that's a pretty wonderful. You know, people complain about the Colorado Division of Wildlife. Everybody doesn't catch a fish.
Right.
And if they understood the management in the western states, because of the limited surface water, the management necessary, we've got some pretty awesome fisheries around here.
Right.
Well, you hooked up again? You won't let me get ahead of you, will you?
I'm gonna get right at the boat.
You can handle that, or you need help?
I don't know. It's a walleye. I might need your help.
Nice fish. You know, we haven't caught any big walleyes today, but the numbers we've caught of nice walleyes, that's a nice fish.
You see how he's hooked though? Again, I mean, just barely nipping at it.
Yep.
They're just not eating it real good.
You know, one of the things, we're not even concentrating on the walleyes today, and we're really trying to locate some more big smallmouth, and it just shows you Chatfield Reservoir has probably turned into the premier walleye fishery in the state of Colorado. Not only numbers of fish, but there's some really nice fish. Now the big fish are hard to catch. Early spring, late fall is when you really get a crack at them, although they can be caught any time. But the numbers of fish, walleyes in this lake for an urban fishery is just tremendous. I mean, just, you know, we're not even after the walleyes really. But you know, smallmouth and walleyes don't feed that much differently.
Correct.
You got there.
I don't know, but it does not want to come up.
Probably a carp. Ooh. Didn't fight like a smallmouth when you first hooked it.
I think it's a walleye.
It's a nice walleye if it is.
I think it is a nice one. Oh
Ooh, yeah, it's a real nice
It's a
walleye.
nice walleye. He's barely hooked too.
Should we net him? Let me get the net. Don't lose that fish, because the camera person wanted a walleye for dinner. That might be.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Here he comes.
There we go. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There we go, folks.
That's a nice walleye.
There's a nice walleye for you.
Couple 3 pounds.
On a jerk bait, crankbait. We're gonna need the pliers to get that treble out of the down the floor behind me. Now that's a nice fish.
Ow.
Oh, yeah, sorry about that. You know, it just shows you the quality. Once again, you know, I talked about the year classes of walleyes in this lake earlier, and it just
Thank you.
shows you the quality of fish you can get here. That's awesome. Way to go.
That's nice.
And for you to say it's nice because you're a bass guy, it's even better.
Come on now.
Good job.
All right.
Now there is an 18-inch limit here. Let's measure this one just to see.
You got a board?
Golden rule right back here. If you can grab me that. Just go ahead and lay it
on the floor.
Yeah, just lay it down. I'll take a look at him. About 22 inches.
Yeah.
You know, walleyes are done spawning, 22-inch fish. I think we'll keep one for the frying pan. Do you think that'd be a good idea?
Sure. One fish would be fine.
Well, I don't like to keep a lot of fish out of these metro lakes because the fisheries do get pressure, but every now and then, one now and then. And you know, the good Lord did a disservice to the walleye when he made him taste so good. So this one goes in the live well. Way to go.
All right, it's my pleasure. Good deal.
Hey, I hope you kind of enjoyed watching us fish. It was springtime when Troy and I were out there. It was the bass were in pre-spawn, the walleyes were in post-spawn. Actually caught some pretty nice fish. You only got to see a few of them. But we want to take you out and show you the spawn now, because this fishery wouldn't exist the way it did without this spawning activity. And it's really a complex activity. And by the way, while you're seeing this, you're going to get to see some awfully big fish come out of Chatfield. If you fish Chatfield, you're going to see some really, really nice fish that got caught, and that's bigger than typically get caught during the year. Reason for that, those big females are very vulnerable in the spring during the spawn, and very few fishermen are very good at fishing for them at that time. Few do get caught, but every year in Colorado, we get double-digit 10 to 15, 16-pound walleyes out of Pueblo, Chatfield, Cherry Creek, and Horsetooth, usually during the spawn. And sometimes they get caught by fishermen during the year and sometimes they don't, but there's those fish are in there and you're going to get to see those firsthand. And you're going to see the complexity of them netting the fish, gathering them, bringing them in. They'll take the eggs out of the females, the milt out of the males. It's a complex process and very delicate how they'll handle it and bring it together. And this is going to bring the great walleye fishing we have in the western United States and how it's maintained. And I'll tell you what, when you see these big fish, when you're out there fishing lakes like Chatfield or Cherry Creek or Pueblo, and you know there's fish like that in there, not only can you have great days, during the summer you can have 50 fish days, but spring and fall, there's always a chance in Colorado, in one of these main lakes, that you could hook into that walleye of a lifetime. The one that people who fish in places like Minnesota and Canada never even see. In fact, the state record in Colorado is 18 pounds, 13 ounces. That's like one of the top 10 walleyes ever caught. I think it's the 6th largest state record, which may have changed. But just to give you perspective, what a huge fish that is, the world record is now considered to be 22 pounds. So you're talking a pound and a half, a couple pounds, so what, 2.5 pounds, 3 pounds, 3.5 pounds off the world record. And there have been fish netted during the spawn in some of the lakes in Colorado that if they'd eaten a couple shads would have rivaled that world record. So let's get back out to Chatfield Reservoir, the same lake that Troy and I were fishing on, and let's show you some of that spawning activity and just how complex it is, how interesting it is, and some of the big fish that are in that lake. Gill nets are set out overnight in various spots on the lake to gather the fish. Once the fish are taken from the gill nets, they're brought into the docks where they're put out on a spawning barge. In the barge, the fish are sorted by males, and then the females, and the females are sorted again, the green females which aren't ready to spawn, and the ripe females which are ready to take the eggs from.
5 males. Oh! The kahuna. One right. One right. One right. Yeah, we didn't turn the sideways backward here. We did a little good, all of a sudden that was really bad. You have to cut yourself out. More things. One right. Now, if you got some South Park stump, you just go this way. Ground chop stumpies. 3 males. 3 males.
What was the temp out there today? Yeah. 44? 44 temp?
They take the eggs from the females and then they take the milk from the males. They're added together in water and mixed with a feather. It takes a very delicate mixing so you don't damage the eggs.
You'll like that one. Yeah. They'll winkle like this one. Winkle like this one. Did you write that one down? Yeah.
Bentonite is added to the mixture to keep them from sticking together, and so they form little individual clumps that can be more easily handled. They pour off water and keep rinsing till blood and residue are taken off. And then the fertilized eggs are put into bins for transfer to the hatchery, where they're raised to fry in fingerling size, where they're stocked in the lakes around Colorado. I hope you found that interesting and you were impressed by the size of fish in Chatfield. And those weren't the biggest ones in the lake, just the ones they happened to take in the day we were filming the spawn. So tremendous interest how we maintain walleye fishing in Colorado and the quality of fish that are in these reservoirs. Before we go, I want to take you back out and do a little fishing in the middle of summer. You saw Troy and I casting to these fish over the backs of some gravel pits. Another time, Jeff Looney and I fished a roadbed that runs through Chatfield with bottom bouncers from a small boat, and we didn't catch any big walleyes that day, but boy did we catch numbers of them. So let's take a peek at that before we go today. There he is.
There you go.
There we go.
Nice.
Oh yeah. There we go.
Nice, nice.
This is a walleye.
Nice.
It's a walleye. I don't know how big it is yet. It's not a huge fish, but
Not a
it's
bad
a decent
start to the
fish.
day.
I think I can get him right here.
Can ya?
There we go. Well, I appreciate you put me on your spot so I could catch the first
sure.
fish. Oh yeah, that's a nice walleye.
Yeah. Oh, he took it down.
He took it good. Did you have your pliers with handy?
That was on the front hook too.
Yeah. Yeah.
He really took that down. Excellent.
Nice. Chatfield plump, healthy walleye.
Yeah.
Good fish.
They are just thick. They've got big, broad shoulders on them.
You got me wet. Well, thank you for taking me out here.
Hey, you bet.
Let's get some more of those.
You bet.
Good fish.
Feels pretty nice. He looks pretty nice too. Oh yeah.
Need the net?
Let me see. He looked good down below. Oh, there's another one with him. Oh. Yeah, I will need the net for this one.
Get it or you need help? Suppose you want me to help you.
Well, sure. He's too feisty. He's not really that much bigger than the rest, but he's feisty and he's not
Weightlifter.
hooked very well. There we go.
There we go.
A little bit nicer.
Oh, a nice fat fish. Let me get this out of here so you don't get hurt.
Yeah, thank you, because I don't want to get another ooch.
Where's your pliers? There's a pair right here. Get the hook out of
Boy, I
here.
barely had him.
There we go. Let you get the hook out of the net.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Another nice fat Chatfield walleye. Boy, they're nice, healthy, firm fish. They're doing well. You know,
they
they're
are.
not
They're
bloated like they're overeating, but they're just good, solid fish that bodes well for this fishery.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice fish to catch for a long time to come. We'll get him back in the water. And away he goes.
That's fun.
Way to go.
Too much fun. Thank you.
Hope you found that interesting. It gives you an appreciation of what it takes to maintain the great walleye fishing we have here in Colorado. First of all, I want to say thanks to the Division of Wildlife for letting us come out and film it and for all the work they do to maintain these quality fisheries we have in the state. And a special thanks to Jeff Looney, who runs the volunteer program for the Spawn every year. Good personal friend, a great fisherman, and also just he's always looking for volunteers, and he just gives so much of his own time. And speaking of volunteers, if you'd like to help out with the Walleye Spawn, whether it's just because you're interested and you want to see those big fish and see this taking place, or you really just want to get out there and help make sure we maintain our walleye population, it typically takes place in March almost every year. And if you contact the Division of Wildlife, but whether you help or not, appreciate the effort it takes every time you catch a walleye in Colorado. Have a little appreciation for what it took to get that there for you to fish for. Get out, catch some walleyes, take a couple home to eat. Maybe you'll get a trophy. Join us next week on Mountain States Fishing.
Thank you.